Hi everyone, welcome to the channel Sluggers. I'm Anupam Mishra and I'll provide you a detailed introduction about myself and the channel towards the end of the session. Right now, let's get into the 24th type of error of the series 50 most essential grammatical errors for the XAT. Okay. However, I would like to first state that this is not just a random list of 50 grammatical errors that we have just come up with. There's in fact quite a logical process involved in creating this list, and the same process I've explained that in detail in a separate video, which you can access by clicking on the link on the top right corner of your video. Okay, so this diagram pertains to that. I've explained all of this in that video there. Okay, so you can watch that if you want. Okay, so guys, with this error, we'll be starting the topic of punctuation. Okay, and I've titled it as punctuation in shorts because, like as you know, we are giving the short treatment to most of the topics here, given the practicality factor. So the first punctuation that we'll be starting with is comma. Okay, and this is the and there are many usage rules that you need to follow when it comes to comma, and this is the first one that we're discussing here. Okay, now before we look at the sentence, let's first try to understand it from the formal rules. Or, what do we have here? So this is a case where which tells us about how to use a comma in expressions or sentences which are made up of two independent clauses. Okay, two like multiple independent clauses. So the rule goes something like this: that a comma just before a coordinating conjunction if it joins two independent clauses. So suppose you have an expression here. Let's say this is an expression which is made up of which is made up of two independent clauses, right? Again, like the question might arise that first of all, like what is an independent clause? So I'll give you a very short and succinct answer to that. An independent clause, guys, is basically any part or subset of the sentence of the main expression which if taken apart and looked at in isolation would still make sense, would still seem meaningful. Okay, so suppose so if you look at the first part of the sentence here, he looked them in the eye. If you take this apart, it still makes sense. Still seems like a meaningful sentence, right? So it's an independent clause. Look at the next part. They couldn't stand his gaze, right? So even that, if you take this sentence apart, it still makes sense. So even that is an independent clause. This couldn't stand his gaze and surrender, right? So that even that is an independent clause. And hence, if you have an expression which is made up of two independent clauses, and when you have two independent clauses, they have to be and they are being joined by a coordinating conjunction, right? These are your coordinating conjunctions, and but is the coordinating conjunction in this case. Then the comma will need to be put right before the coordinating conjunction. That's what the rule says, right? So in this case, for example, look at the first sentence. It says, he looked them in the eye, uh, but they couldn't stand his gaze and surrendered, right? So you have the first independent clause, you have the second independent clause, and before that you just have your coordinating conjunction, and before but you need to have the comma, which you do have here. So this sentence is absolutely on point. Okay, now let's look at the second sentence. It says, he looked them in the eye. He looked them in the eye. So you have the first independent clause, but they couldn't stand his gaze. Again, you have the second independent clause, but in this case, you don't have the comma here before the coordinating conjunction, right? Rather, you have the comma here, right? So now this would have made sense if the part after this coordinating conjunction, that is this part, would have been a independent clause by itself. But a single word cannot make up a coordinating an independent clause, right? So if this part after this coordinating conjunction had been an independent clause, in that case putting up comma here would have made sense. But well, as it happens, it is not. It is just a verb, right? So and that is not always an independent clause. So hence this will be incorrect. Again, there might be a very logical question that might arise here, that what are, like, if these are independent clauses, what are dependent clauses? And we'll talk about that. We'll come to that in the next session. Okay, so don't worry about that. For now, just know this particular rule. Two independent clauses being joined by a coordinating conjunction, you need to put the comma just before the coordinating conjunction. Okay, simple. Now, there's a sentence that you can try here. So it says, I went to the gym so that I can regain my focus. Okay. Let me know if you think the sentence is correct. If not, what should be the how can you rectify the sentence? Let me know in the comment section. Finally, guys, my quick introduction. I'm Anupam Mishra and I'm Lucknow alumnus. I have worked in the past with organizations such as Hotstar, UNICEF, Apollo TAS, IMS, etc. I've also worked with an academy as an educator in the past, recognized by their Johnny Ive Award. And I was regarded as one of the top VRC educators that they had. These are my CAT credentials, and Sluggers is basically my endeavor to plug in all the crucial gaps that I believe there are in the test prep industry, starting with the CAT exam. Okay, now, yeah, so that's about me. Do move on to the next era. Okay.